stories. You said that you were diagnosed with cancer. And would you love to share that bit of life about your diagnosis and the journey and the current state anyway?
Okay, so I will start by saying this, that a human being is divided into four. Let's imagine a square, and then we cut it in the middle and cut it like that. So there are four different squares, right? Four different segments. There is something that people probably know. It's called a Johari's window. So it's the way you see how a human being is viewed. So there is a part of those four parts. One part is a part that people know about you, and you also know about yourself. So it is known to everybody. Then there is a part that is people know those things about you, but you don't know them about yourself. And then the other part is a part where there are things you know about yourself and nobody knows them about you. Nobody, however close they are. And then the other fourth part has things that you don't know about yourself and nobody knows them about you as well. So it is hidden from everybody. The reason I'm talking about is that this is a journey that I think it may have a few things that people may know about, including my own family. And probably it's a journey that I will talk about, and then they will discover there are things they have never known about me. But it's a beautiful thing to share. I have learned that through sharing our stories, we get a chance, first of all, to relive those stories again, but not in real time. So it gives us perspective. But also, it could mean something to somebody at a particular point in life. And so somebody else may relate to it, and it may mean something. They may latch onto it during a difficult time, and it may take them to another level. So I will share a bit of my health story. So growing up as a child, I think I was a very sickly child, but I don't remember why I was sickly or what made me sickly. But quite often I do remember, lots of hospital visits. I don't know if it was malaria. When you're sick, you're just sick. But understanding that the dynamics of the sickness may be another thing. But also how medicine has progressed through the years. Maybe the diagnosis was not very deep or what. So through my teenage years, I was a very sickly child, very, very sickly. And also my time at the university. But then one day, I don't know what prompted it, but I was really feeling unwell. And then I just went into to see a doctor, and I said, I'm not feeling well. I described what they were saying, and they said, sounds a little bit strange. Let's do a few tests and see. So I did some tests, and then he said, I need more. And then we need to do scan. He took it a little bit more seriously. I had never had such kinds of investigations. And the doctor said he had real concerns about my health. And at that time, I was in Uganda. He referred me to another doctor who also did some investigations in Zambia Hospital at that time. And then he said, I think I would want to, do an operation and open up and see, because the results I'm seeing are quite not conclusive. So it's easier if we, opened up and we got to see. So that was my first operation in life. And initially it went well. Then later I got complications and I rushed back into hospital. It was very serious. It was very life-threatening. I got better, and with time, I did my treatments and I was okay. And then the doctor said, no, it's not life-threatening as we thought. We had anticipated that it's cancer, but not quite from the tests that we did and everything. So I was happy. And during that time, I went to do my master's in Ireland. So when I went to do my master's, one of the questions they asked me is, have you ever had an operation? Which I thought was a very innocent question. And I said, yes. And what for? And I explained. And they said, okay. So when I went to Ireland, they followed up on that question. And that's how I went into hospital. because you've had an operation and you've had a history of this, we would want to look into it again. And I said, yeah, sure, I'm not worried about it. The doctor told me in Uganda there's no need to worry after I had done my treatments, it's all good. When I did that test, okay, at that time when I went in for the, for the samples to be taken and all that, the nurse had explained to me and said, well, most likely we will email the results in your mailbox. Probably, definitely the practice has changed now, but at the time it was okay. Said, however, that depends on the kind of results you will have. So if there is no cause for concern or anything else, you will get an email saying there is no cause for concern or something like that in your mailbox. So, but if there is a concern, we will have to call you in. So it will not be emailed to you, or mailed, actually, not emailed. It will not be mailed to you. Do you understand? Yeah. So I went away and said, well, we expect results to be back within 2 to 3 weeks, thereabout. And I said, okay. So I waited 2 weeks. I didn't get them. So I waited the third week. I did get them. And I thought, oh, it has taken longer. So I kept checking. And when it didn't come, the third week, and it was into the fourth week, I started getting worried. And I remember that day I was at the university when I received a call from the hospital, and the nurse said, oh, is this Julie? Yes. Okay, so I'm calling you from this hospital, and where are you? I said, well, I'm at the uni. And she said, okay, I'll call you back when you get home. And I said, no, I'm happy to speak to you now because I'm not busy. And she said, no, I'll call you back later. And I insisted I can talk, but she insisted she'll call back later when I'm home. She said, when do you expect to be home? And I told her. So anyway, long story short, I get home and I'm waiting for her call. And she calls me and she says, who are you home with? For me, those questions were very leading. And I said, I'm home alone. Why? Are you sitting or standing? At that point, I was thinking, okay, just say what you want to say. Whether I'm sitting or I'm standing, it doesn't matter. Just say, I'm already nervous. Well, she said, well, your results are back and it's not quite good, but it's not, okay, you're not dying tomorrow. I mean, it's not stage 4 or anything at that point. And she said, but yeah, we have booked you in to come and see the doctor and all that. But I had an idea at that point. So I was worried. I went and saw the doctor. And at that time I started, on the treatment that they had given me. And she said, within 6 months, we will have to redo all the tests again and see how you have progressed. And I said, okay, sure, we will do that. So in 6 months, I go back in and it's the same procedure. You will wait for this period of time, but this time it took much longer than 4 weeks to get back the results. And when the results came, she said, I'm sorry, I think it is worse than it was before. So you need to come right away back into hospital. I was devastated. But at that time I was struggling with my health. I wasn't feeling well. And I met a group of South African nutritionalists at that time who were actually treating people who had serious illnesses, whether it's cancer or any other terminal illnesses or incurable diseases that people had, categorized as such. So I was at my lowest, but these people gave a lot of hope. And they said, well, like you hear many people say today, there is, cancer is just this, you just don't get into treatment, do this. So these people talked about nutrition. And I remember that they talked about going off every cooked food, having to, do exercise. These are the things people tell us, honestly. There is no magic. We just don't listen or follow these things. They said we have to start an exercise routine, but it's not one where you just go and do, what can I do today? Let me run. Maybe it needed to be very guided with a coach to get the kind of results that I needed. And then, of course, there are certain levels I couldn't go to. So I did go through that. And I started the diet program. It was a very hard program because many of the things in that program are things I hated or are things I never.
As much as I've captured, the cancer was stage 2 by then. 2 or 3?
Yes. No, it wasn't 3. It was at stage 2. But the funny thing is, there were many people who were in our therapy group. And I discovered these people didn't tell their families, just like I hadn't told my family. And then I asked them, why didn't you tell your people? Because it's good to disclose. And everyone had a reason why they're not disclosing. And I think at the core of this was we care about the people who are very close to us. And disclosing may do more harm than good. At that time, I was thinking, how will my family take this? I had gone for study, and most of the time I was sick. I had so many extensions of deadlines because I couldn't submit on time. And when you're far from people, you can hide all those things. But when you come within their sight, then there are things you can't hide properly.
Mm.
So there are many people who are taking medication, and what we had known is that that's what we knew. Until I discovered that there are people who take medication and they do have other conditions that are life-threatening, and they haven't probably disclosed to the family for the good of the family, as they may think. And I discovered that there are many people who may end up with cancer, may have had a hint or a clue early on, and they didn't disclose, and they're forced to disclose when they're in the last stages, because at that point you can't hide it anymore. And so you hear many people saying, oh, we just got to know, it has been a month ago, and then this person has progressed. I discovered that maybe some people know, some people don't know, but some people know, and they decide to keep it. And
No, actually,
I did that.
Just to relate something, the likes of the late Chadwick, where stories run, and some people thought it was then that it got to the media, that it got to be known, but maybe, yeah, the other stories told that he had known for long.
Yeah. And he never disclosed, even to the closest people he was with.
Yeah.
It's very common. It comes from 2 places. Somebody may say it's selfish, but it ultimately comes from a place of care. Because then sometimes people want to say, why didn't you say so that we can be there for you? But sometimes you love your people so much that you'd rather take in the pain alone on their behalf. So it then becomes a very lonely journey. And that is one of the most loneliest journeys I've ever gone on by myself. Because it was long. It's not a one-day journey, but then every time people call you, you are accustomed to saying, I'm fine. And then quietly, everyone is making plans, and the first thought that comes to your mind is, will I live in long enough to be part of those plans? Whether people are planning for Christmas and it's probably July, and they're saying, oh, in December, we will go to the village, or we will go here. And you're quietly wondering, will I be here in December? I may not be here, depending on how this progresses. But then you go along with them.
Just as it said in Luganda, nti okesa lucha ga oluzero wala.
Exactly. And that's the point where I learned that the most important thing that matters in life is life. There is a way life can shake you and you come back to your senses. Nenchiga nti ebintu ebisinga bye tuyitamu is because we have the luxury to do that. Okunyigira abantu. You have the luxury to do that. I am telling you, if they told you tomorrow is your last day, omuntu ajja kola ekintu kireme kunyiza, because it doesn't matter anymore at that point. So what happens is that you try to lift as much burden off yourself as you can, because the burden that you're carrying is quite heavy to carry with other things. So, obusungu, okunyiga, following trends, whether it's fashion or it ceases to matter, because the only thing that matters is life at that point. So it kind of humbles you, but then it gives you a good philosophy to life where you kind of fly light. For us who sometimes travel, you know, in different countries, we know Africans are known for heavy baggage. Ever kilo zaabwe ziyitamu ajja ne keesi nnya baabagambye bbiri ate n'atandika okunegotiatingira wali naye I will not say Africans. I'm one of those who always have, you know, we bagamba 23 obeera ne 23.9. You know, olina ozimalayo kilo zonna. But I always looked at people who travel light. Literally, they don't even have check-in baggage. Alina just carry on. Nga kali light, kali kilo tano, nakote kali overweight. And, you know, they just go through immigration and it's quite easy. And it's something I've had to learn to teach myself. Fly light. Naye tubeera n'emigugu olina ebisawo ebirala bisatu, but sickness teaches you to fly light. All those things to be mattering at that point. So it was a quiet journey. I never talked to my family. And one of the times I went to Nairobi to see a specialist, I had come back from Ireland. Nentuuka omusawo n'angamba ozze naani kubanga you know, we are going to start on these procedures. Nemugamba tewali nzize nzekka n'angamba tekisoboka ng'oli mulwadde. Nemugamba yes, n'angamba tolina famire, oli nfunzi, oli ki, oli munaku, tolina muntu yenna. Nze no mbalina, but I just didn't tell them that I was coming for medical treatment. And they said, what? And I said, yes. N'angamba so wabagambye olaga wa? Nembagamba nabagambye ngenda on a business trip. I'm going for work. My family was used to me traveling for work. So I just said I'm going for work, but I wasn't going for work. I was going for medical treatment. So Nangamba, so I'm going to admit you definitely, but it doesn't make sense to me that your family doesn't know. Then Mugamba, I'll let them know when I get to a point where they really have to know. And it reminds me of somebody I traveled with on that flight when I was coming from UK. Yali Rosemary Nankabira, Yali journalist wa NTV, I think back then. We came back on the same flight. Omuwala oyo nga mulwadde, nali mulwadde at that time. I did have a little bit of chit chat with her. Kunyonyi. I didn't know mulwadde. She didn't look that sick. She really progressed so quickly. Era nzijukira nagenda emulago mulaba nga she's fighting for life natya, because I was going through the same natya nnyo. NTV had done a car wash for her. They were doing all this fundraising for her. I mean, at that point, they had gotten to know. Nayenz, I hadn't gotten to the point where I can talk about it. So, obradde bwamuluma nagenda nemulaba a couple of times. Nemulaba nga progressing nga akyuka mangu, and she died. Even then, I didn't talk about it. So, but what I wanted to say is, ekintu ekirala kyanjigiriza is be kind to people. Everybody is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know nothing about. I may look happy and normal to you, and I was happy. I looked happy to people. I talked to people normally. Naye nga seebaka. Ngasobola nakwebaka. So omusawo n'angamba that's the other problem now. Obutasobola kwebaka is going to complicate everything because you should be able to rest. Naye tugamba abantu ebintu bingi, and sometimes nekundabika. I remember that time I darkened a lot, and I did get a few comments around it. And I just said, oh, it's the weather in Europe and all that. Naye, how we pass comments, kubantu, is something we really need to be careful about. Oli ayinza okuba nga akoze nnyo, oba nga agezze nnyo, whatever it is, just be kind. Ennaku emuluma. Abantu batugamba bagenda ebweru babeera bulungi. Omulabye nga bwaddugadde.
Someone never cares.
Exactly. They don't know
what wound they're opening.
Yeah, so more underneath these clothes, wayinza okuba nga waliyo ebiwundu bye mutalaba. So be kind to people. That's all I'm saying. Just be kind. Wadde talabika nga alina ekizibu, oyinza obutakiraba naye ng'akirina. Nze najja on that flight, I remember very vividly, Rosemary Nankabira looked very normal. She looked okay to me. I didn't think she even had a problem. I thought I had a problem. And we had the same problem. So Anyway, that's how that journey went. I did go through my treatments quietly. And when I was in remission and I was feeling way better, I told my family. But I didn't even talk about the whole story and the whole journey. I just said, well, this is what happened, but now I have good results. And it has been a journey since then. That I thank God for, but it taught me many lessons. But the most important thing is I pray that I don't forget those lessons, because when you feel better, it's easy to forget those lessons. And then you just go along with the flow of life. But it's important to always remember Jetuvode and how far God has brought us.